And we're back.
Welcome, guys. Welcome to Beyond the Signs podcast.
I'm your co-host, Omar Hamouda,
And I'm your other co host, Kiera Lee.
and today we're going to be talking about how to book consistent clients or booking the same consistent clients. And this is something that we were talking about quite recently because we're talking about like that big project that we have with some of the doctors that I work with, and we were just talking about like how like I was able to get that. And this kind of goes along with the same episode that we were talking about how to like book clients,
Mm-hmm.
but this one is more or less like a continuation of that, but in a sense where how you keep getting the same client back, right? And I've always loved the model of subscription base, which means is that like if like you work with a client, you can say, "Hey, by the way, if you would like my work and you want it on a consistent rate, I can give it to you at a discounted rate." So that's like one way of getting a client back and keeping them on your radar, right? Um what else do you suggest?
Something I think is very fundamental and might be obvious to some people, but for me, it is key. Honestly, just being professional and being timely with your work and keeping your word on, when you say something's going to be in, and keeping consistent with that deadline that you're brought with. Obviously, this is situational because there's certain, you know, situations and environments where you can't, get something in on time or something's not working or you and the client are just not seeing eye to eye. But for the most part, I think it's extremely important to just make them want to come back to you by being timely, being, a professional, handling any type of situation well, whether the shoot goes sideways or the client suddenly expects something from you that wasn't agreed on in the contract or the job, and just kind of rolling with the punches in a gracious way that makes them see something different in you to want to come back and want to work with you time and time again.
Right. So like when I usually talk to clients about like actually getting started with the work, is that I always like try to navigate it to that fact. It's like, hey, like I can always come back and like we can always do more work together, because they'll ask me, "Oh, like I want to add a discounted rate." I'm like, "Well, let's do it this way.
Mm.
Why don't I do it for significantly less than what I was going to charge you, but not at the rate that you want? And if we keep going at it, I can write you up a contract." And that's the key word, is actually writing up contracts, right?
It's so important. Yes, yes.
Because the idea behind it is that you want to keep consistent working, and that you want to put in the terms, right? Is that you are going to get paid at a certain rate
Hmm.
at a certain given time, and that you're going to always have consistent work.
And putting it on paper is the best way to do it.
Absolutely. And like for me, like I've been working with like the past like three same clients, and I kid you not, I don't need to grab more clients because they're like, I'm not saying they pay me the big bucks, but like at least they're consistent work where like I don't have to like look for jobs, and like when jobs do come to me, like I'm able to say, "Hey, like I work a lot, so
Mhm.
it's going to be a lot higher, so I can put you on higher priorities." Because also too, you have to keep in mind like when you do have like the same clients that you work with, is that timing does make a difference, right? Like one of the jobs that like one of my consistent clients, is that once I do work for them, they want it the very next day,
Mhm.
which to them, I like I told them it's unreasonable, but if we do it in a certain way, I could have it done for you the next day. And as soon as like we test tried it, and that's also another thing too, is like if you're gonna book a consistent client, who's going to come to you at the same time, you also have to be willing to work with um their like limitation as well,
Mhm.
their demands, right? But also don't compromise your work efforts and your work ethics for them, right? So for me to get a photo the next day or a video the next day is doable, but don't expect it to be like the best. Not like expectation is really like a weird word to use, but it's mainly like um don't expect like effects or anything
Mhm.
like that.
The
I'm gonna
utmost quality and effort put into it.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
gonna be of quality,
Mhm.
but it's not gonna have like the effects that people want, stuff like that.
You're not putting in you're not going the extra mile for that client if they're not paying you, what that extra mile's
Well, I mean,
worth.
like it's not going the extra mile because going the extra mile is getting the work done the very next day,
That is true. That
right?
is true.
It's more or less like if it's consistent enough that you have developed a template or a workflow that you
Mhm.
work with, then that's where like you can say, hey, like I can give you this quality, which is great quality still, because nonetheless, like you don't want to keep putting like shitty quality out there, right? For them and like saying, hey, like you can do better, right? But let's say, for example, like this is what we agreed on, right? Then the next time, like let's say they have a bigger thing or they want to do something different. All right, let's negotiate the terms.
Mhm.
Don't be afraid to like actually negotiate something that if you don't feel comfortable doing because it's out of the scope of work, right?
Mhm.
Which we've done many a time and they were completely fine with it, right? The idea behind grabbing consistent work and grabbing the same client is being able to reason with them under the terms that you guys have agreed on.
Absolutely. And I think, personally, I've been in situations where that hasn't been possible, and maybe other people have. A few years ago, I was working for a concert photography client who had hired me to shoot various concerts and shows for them. And it was expected of me to provide over 200 edited and logoed photos within 24 hours for a certain fee. And at the time, I was new to concert photography, and I was just like, honestly, anything that gets me in the space, I'm willing to do. But as time went on, I realized if they're asking this much from you within 24 hours, the quality of what you end up giving them is going to be less because of the fact that your visions are not adding up, and
Hmm.
what you agreed upon has now been stretched to the limit to where you are not able to turn in the quality that you um would be able to do otherwise if you were given a little bit more time or even paid a little bit more. And quickly I realized that that company was, you know, not recognizing my worth. And that goes back to a previous episode that we talked about with how to price yourself and recognizing your worth and coming in with confidence. But like you said, it's a give and take with clients that you want to be consistent with. So it really is situational in that
Absolutely,
regard.
absolutely. And like I always say, and I've said it before on a previous episode, is it really depends on who's cutting the check for you. If
Absolutely.
you're okay with the people cutting the check for you, then that's all that matters.
Mhm.
But like the actual like people who surround it, because like for example, one of the clients that I have are the doctor's office, right? Which I get by with everyone very well, right? But you do have those who like intend to not have the same attitude as you, but it takes a little bit time to get getting used to. As long as I'm fine with the people who are cutting the check, I'm all fine and dandy. But at the same time, I respect them, to respect the people who I do work with, respect those who are involved in it. And yeah, it's a give and take. Like you have to understand, like like also too, it is situational because they are doctors and they've are well renowned in their field of practice, and you
Mhm.
do want to also respect that. So I don't come in as in an arrogant way because if I did, then one, I'd be disrespecting them, and two, I wouldn't put it like I'm not putting a good name to myself, right?
And you're most likely not gonna be booking that client for future gigs.
Or they won't be able to like they won't even want to work with me anymore
That's what
because
I'm
like
saying,
I'm
right.
gonna be seeing them every single time, and like you've seen it when I walked in, everyone knows me, and like I
Mhm.
was I was very personable with
When you
everyone.
walk up, everybody has a smile on their face, and that says something.
Exactly. And for example, some of the staff who I've never seen before, they usually aren't very open. As soon as we get talking, taking pictures, making sure like, hey, like where's that smile so I can take that staff photo. They
Mhm.
usually show their smile, and then like we're always on a good level. So that's really what it comes down to is like your attitude when it comes to actually working with certain clients. Like for example, like one of the clients I work for, they're part of a car company, and the drivers who usually drive, they're very weird on like certain like things. I like when I ask them, hey, can you drive down here and stuff, they're always complaining, but I'm like, that's what you've been like, that's why I need you guys to do, because like it's part of the
That's
job.
what you hired me to do. Yeah, that's
Right.
what your company hired me to do.
Exactly. But at the same level is that I'm able to get along with them because I'm always trying to accommodate for them, trying to make their life easier by making my life easier as well. So I'm not like asking them for wild demands. Like for example, like there was one time where I had to drive to three different airports, right? And the driver did not want to drive to three different airports. I made his time worth it was I was getting him food along the way, getting him some coffee, making sure that he was up and ready, like having a good time while like
Mhm.
doing the actual
Abs
job.
and that just comes with being personable and treating, like we said in a previous episode, treating people like humans and not
Exactly.
just clients in that regard. And realizing in certain situations when you need to kind of ebb and flow with their needs.
Right.
And
And it's also really funny because like a lot of people say, hey, just get the job done. It's not about just getting the job done.
mhm,
It's about being able to communicate to get the job done.
mhm,
Because I'm like a workhorse. Like I'll get the job done, right? But like I don't want to make it seem where like people will remember me and say, hey, like he's just an asshole, but he'll get the job done. So like I
right.
guess no, I want them to be able to communicate with me, and literally that's how like I've been getting jobs is like working with the same clients I've worked with,
Mhm.
and then pass me along different jobs because I'm able to like be personable with them and being able to not just get the job done, but get it done correctly for them to be able to hire me back again.
Absolutely, because that's what's going to bring people back to you. Is did you create a memorable, positive experience for them in working with them? Like, did you provide them with the quality and the service and the, positivity, the professionalism that they were looking for and that they paid for essentially? Because you're not just paying for somebody's work, because somebody could be, right, like you just said, they could get the job done and they could give you quality work, but they might not always be a good person and they might not always be personable and friendly and able to actually connect with you to build a long lasting relationship. Whereas the person who can will get those gigs again and again and again with the same people again and again and again.
Absolutely. It's just about the attitude that you put in front of yourself, or the image you, or the canvas that you paint yourself in, you know? I'm not saying be a fake person.
Hmm.
If you are truly someone who has like a bad attitude, then that's just something about you. I'm not saying change that, but I'm also saying like don't expect too much, right?
Hmm.
For me, like I've built my persona around like the person I am ever since I was younger. Like it's really funny because like when people ask me like they look at me, they're like, you haven't really changed. I'm like, there's not much to change. I've already built it up to a place. Like, of course, my like the way I think, the ideology of how I think, um, the experience I have been changing and evolving. But like when it comes to core principle, like the core principle of
Hmm.
who I am, that's that hasn't really changed ever since I was 12 years old.
Hmm.
So like it really comes down to like what type of person do you want to be at the end of the day, and what do you want to be remembered for? Um, and it's actually funny because I was actually thinking about a topic for another episode, and I think this would be very important for us to talk about.
Mhm.
But you know what? It slipped my mind.
That happens. It's okay.
And it happens a lot, but
We're constantly thinking of ideas for other episodes within
absolutely,
the episodes that we're
absolutely,
recording, so I don't doubt that it'll come back to you.
absolutely. And honestly, that's pretty much I have to say about like booking consistent clients or booking the same consistent client. Just being personable and being able, and it's funny because we keep repeating ourselves about being personable, but it truly comes down to literally if people really internalize what that actually means, then people wouldn't have that issue. Like I have issues of like how to book client when I first started, but it was never about like being personable. It's as soon as I got my foot in the door, that's when everything started to like run through. And I'm not saying like they're always flooding in. It's just
Mhm.
that having a good positive attitude and literally that's all it takes to really change the dynamic of how you get clients.
Mhm. And I think this definitely what I'm about to say relates to another episode that is coming in the future heavily, but personally, speaking from the perspective of somebody with social anxiety and anxiety in general, um it's not about being fake, like you said, but sometimes it's just about being able to realize when you have to turn your personality on a little bit higher in a certain atmosphere or environment. And though I have a lot of personal and social anxiety, being in this industry for so many years, you kind of learn how to put that confident, personable, warm face on for clients and for other people because that is who I am at my core, but that's not who I normally feel like I can express myself as in a professional environment because I just get anxiety. And it's about kind of just not faking it, but faking it till you make it, but also maintaining your own personal standards of who you wanna come across as and
It's
the
it's
type of person that you wanna
it's actually
be
funny.
to the public.
It's actually funny when you mention fake it till you make it. For me, that means a different thing than like what other people like fake it till you make it, where it's like you just gotta put on a face and make sure that you. For me, it's more or less like fake it till you make it. It's more or less like I put on my persona, but I also like try to sell them on something that it's going to be real, but at this day and age, it's not real yet. So fake it to make it really goes back to like our topic about like what it means to have made it.
Mhm.
And that philosophy doesn't really like resign with me too much, but at the same time it does involve like the beginning work of like fake it till you make it, where in a sense where it's like just getting your foot there. So I would say fake it till you get there.
Mhm.
Fake it till you get there. That's a new saying of mine. And with that, thank you for watching. If you like this episode so much, or just a tiny bit, like, subscribe is down there,
Please do.
and also follow us on our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Join the community, guys.
It's there. And with that, we'll see you all next time.
See you next week.
Bye bye for now.